What's up, and welcome to finally another episode of Common Sense Superheroes Podcast with David and Greg. I'm coming to you live from the Riverside Studios, as you can tell. Clearly, this is where I'm at, not fake background. No, sir. And I am your host, David, and across from me is the bearded one, Mr. Gregory Miller. Greg, oh man, it's been a while, but before we get into all that, number 48. Do you have a number 48, Greg?
I've got two I'm not gonna lie, I just had to scour the internet because nothing popped up immediately. But I'm gonna throw out one of the arbitrary ones and let you have the other. I'm gonna go with Torrey Hunter, who a name that a lot of people may forget, but that son of a gun may have been one of the top three all-time defensive center fielders we've ever seen.
Yeah.
If you don't know the name Torrey Hunter, kids, go find him on YouTube. Google, find some Torrey Hunter highlights, and you will enjoy it.
Dude's a beast. He was something else. Just quietly went about his business. For a center field guy of that age group, you would think be a lot flashier than he was, but I don't recall him being over divish or anything like that. I don't recall.
I think that's one of the things, and you and I embody this both so well. It is true eliteness. Just you make the greatness look easy, and I think that's what I really, when I think back to even the highlights of Torrey Hunter, that dude made spectacular plays, but it still looked like it was relatively easy for him. So it almost like he doesn't get the credit for it.
Yeah, no, speaking of relatively easy, this was relatively easy in the fact that he played on a team that had an offensive line that was insane, that I feel like I could run behind. But if that wasn't enough for Emmitt Smith to have an offensive line like that, my man had a fullback that would go through there and just make room for him to get about 3 to 4 yards before he even got touched. And that was one Mr. Daryl Moose Johnston, who's turned into a pretty good sports announcer as well, or analyst. I don't know if he still does it now that I say that out loud, but was good there for a few years. But Daryl Moose Johnston, Greg, I'm sure you're familiar with that.
The heyday of the Cowboys, yep. Moose Johnston was a name all of us NFL guys know. And man, David, it just makes me harken back, and I feel like I'm way too damn young to be saying this, but I miss the days of the fullback. I want fullbacks back into football.
I do too. I need my Tim Riggins back.
Yeah.
We were watching Friday Night Lights. It was better when they had Smash and Tim Riggins leading the charge at fullback. So it's a bygone era. I'm more of an I-form guy myself. Even when I played Madden, give me the I-form. I never was big into passing and spreading. Hence why I probably suck now at Madden. But back in the day, I used to love watching that grind it out down the middle. But I'm going to say, listen, football's better when the Cowboys are at least somewhat good, or at least somewhat in the mix of things. You ain't got to like them, but you got to appreciate that. Much like the Knicks, basketball's better when the Knicks and the Lakers and teams like that are big. But when the Cowboys are in the mix, I think it's a better football product. I'm just saying.
I mean, I don't think there's any real room for argument that the Cowboys are one of those iconic franchises in all of sports. Whether, like you said, like them or love them or hate them, whatever, or somewhere in between, the Cowboys are the Cowboys. And you're right, the NFL is better when the Cowboys are relevant.
Shout out Coach Tyler Carlton. How about them Cowboys? Every time they do anything, he throws that out in a meme in a group chat. But it's just better. Speaking of Cowboys, wow, Tony Romo. Hey, bud. Hey, man. Listen, we all love golf. I love golf too. It's been a while since I've been able to play. Golf is, kind of goes hand in hand with drinking. But hey, if you somebody like Tony Romo, you can't be knocking him out at the golf course and then go take a drive. Tony Romo got caught in Milwaukee, Wisconsin of all places. Got caught with was it IOW? Driving while intoxicated. I forget what the actual charge was, but basically he was drinking and driving.
I have only been to Milwaukee, Wisconsin as a youth, but from what I think about when I picture Milwaukee, I would assume one has to be pretty loaded to get pulled over for a DUI, especially if you're Tony Romo. Like,
yes.
I'm assuming this wasn't questionable. I haven't seen any sort of body cam footage or video yet, but one would have to think that this had to be some questionable decision making that led to this if Tony Romo gets pulled over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, of all places.
The footage is out there somewhat, and if you saw the actual mugshot, boy, he was a little 3 sheets to the wind there. He was feeling pretty good. Damn, even when they're away, the kids are calling me now, wanting me to. I don't know what they want.
As long as it
Good
ain't
grief.
money, you're good.
Yeah. Well, they can ask all they want about that, but he was pretty shot out. And the internet's undefeated. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. Which apparently you haven't, but they were doing the body cam where they were going over the sobriety test and all that, and asking him if he had any head injuries or concussions or anything. And it just he kind of got quiet and like how should I answer this? And then it showed all the footage of him getting laid out on the football field and just being annihilated with all the concussions. It was quite hilarious. I recommend you looking that up.
Well, I'm gonna take this opportunity to do two things that I don't do a whole lot of. I hope I'm gonna be a total hypocrite, but I'm also gonna give a public service announcement because this is just another example of. Look, I understand. I have made some poor choices in my life, and I've been blessed to get away with most of them with relatively light punishment, if any punishment at all. But come on, people. Tony Romo, Tiger Woods, all of you guys, make better decisions. This is 2026. Ubers are everywhere. Like, there is absolutely no reason 999 times out of 1,000 to even take a chance getting behind the wheel if you've had more than a drink or two. Just don't do it. I'm telling you.
Especially if you have somewhat of a job like that, it's not worth the risk. But I will say, Tony Romo can thank Mark Sanchez, because if something goes down, you can be like, former quarterback arrested. You got to be like, well, at least I'm not Mark Sanchez. Yes, I was drinking while I was a little intoxicated, but you know what I didn't do? Cocaine and go stab somebody. That's Mark Sanchez. That story just kind of went away somewhat, but wow. Still, when I think about it, I'm mind blown that Mark Sanchez, old Mr. Butt Fumble, has failed so much.
Yeah, but I mean, there again, I could also make the argument that that's sort of a sad state of the society we live in, that, superstar quarterback involved in knife fight doesn't even really seem like that much of an odd headline. It just seems kind of normal.
It's so weird. He had a job. He was a Fox analyst, I believe, and that just shocking. But as I said earlier, I've been rewatching a couple things. Little House on the Prairie being one of them, and also Friday Night Lights. I don't know why it just hit me. And every time I see Minka Kelly, I think, like, man, she's a smoke show. And I think of Derek Jeter in his list that he compiled of female companions. And Tony Romo, I don't know the full list, but I do know Carrie Underwood and I do know Jessica Simpson. So when it comes to cowboy quarterbacks, you want them with a superstar blonde. He had a couple of them there for a minute. He had a little run there.
Well, I married my superstar blonde, so I don't really have anything to be jealous of.
Is she in the room? Why you? What's up?
She's not even in town, dude.
Jeez Louise. Well, that's the problem. My God, can't even have a little fun. Can't even compare a female list. You over there? I love my wife. Oh, get out of here. Hey, somebody's in trouble. You can tell Greg's in trouble because he's trying to be sweet talky. Maybe she does listen. I don't have to talk like that because mine don't listen. But golly, Greg, can you not have a little fun? I'm going.
David, I'm nothing but fun, brother.
I gotta go with Derek Jeter's. Well, I don't know. John Mayer's list is pretty strong too. Golly. All right, that's another show. We're just trying to catch up. Greg, it has been a minute.
You could go down all your list on a front porch episode. Don't drag me down that rabbit hole.
We gotta catch up a little bit. This summer has been. I don't want to keep coming on every week or so that we're able to do a podcast and be like, man, life has been beating my butt. It has, but that's fine. I can take it. That's what I'm here for. I'm going to keep on striving. But school cannot start back soon enough for a multitude of reasons. One, the kids are driving me crazy every day. Two, it's affecting our being able to do a podcast. So I've missed you, Gregory. I've missed being able to get on here and talk to the people. What has life been up to for Greg in the past week? What's some big topics that you want to talk about? Your shows are doing phenomenal. I'm listening along and loving it. So just let folks get caught up a little bit.
I've learned a couple of things that I'll share with the audience here. I've learned that I spent about 2 months being pretty consistent, putting out scripture related, Bible related, theme stuff pretty much every day. More often than not every day for the last couple of months. And the interaction and the reaction was fairly limited. This week I started, since we're getting close to football season, I started dropping a little UGA football and talking a little bit of that on each episode this week. And that'll make the interaction pick up. I got Alabama fans and Ohio State fans fighting it out in my own chat from videos that I started to, where I didn't even discuss either one of those teams. So I have learned that college football draws more attention than the good Lord. And that's unfortunate when you think about it. And the other thing I have learned as someone who has been a very supportive teammate slash spouse and has watched every game of the softball team that I can't play with because of my injury. I'm at the age where playing co-ed softball is debatable whether or not it's fun. Watching co-ed softball is not a debate at all. It is not fun. I am trying to be supportive. Team, I love you. If any of y'all are listening, Haley, it's great watching you play, babe, but holy cow, that is not a spectator sport. It is bad. It's 95 degrees out there, dust all in my face, blowing everywhere, barely an inch of shade to try to crawl into. And frankly, none of them are really any good when you really watch it from the sidelines. So I don't know. Yeah,
Ouch.
so I've learned that. I've learned college football is more loved than God, and that sucks. And I've learned that I am not a fan of adult co-ed softball.
Hey, pal, you know these little things? They're microphones. People can hear you, just so you know. People that actually might listen can hear you berating their team. How dare you, Greg? Listen, there's a lot of times that I don't care to watch kids baseball can be uber bored when they're throwing ball at the ball at the ball, but you gotta go. You gotta support, and you're in that same book. You got to
Yes,
go.
I have been there. I have been supportive. I don't have to pretend to like it. And look, maybe this is just the latest example of, and I don't know if you've quite got there yet, but I think I'm really just entering that stage in life where I'm just really comfortable telling the truth and being honest about what I think and what I feel and go, you know what? If it runs somebody out of my life because they disagree so harshly with who I am, then maybe they just weren't supposed to be in this circle anyway.
Listen, I keep saying listen. Listen, I keep saying listen. I don't know what to tell you, Greg, because I'm not going to agree with you because I'm not going to get on people's bad side who might actually listen, but it's one of the things you got to do. Now, I will say it is not as fun with this dadgum heat. Boy, are we in quite a little heat wave we got going here. Feels like temperatures in the 104s, 105s, things like that, and that's just disgusting. As much as I want to tell my kids go outside and play, I'm almost like, don't, just stay in here. Just don't die. Because then I got to go out there.
I do think this is it's one of those small opportunities to frame things with a little perspective. Because I will admit, like I've spent most of this summer kind of thinking to myself, it's been pretty darn mild if you think about it. We
It
hadn't
actually
had a
has.
lot of, I mean,
No.
we're almost to August and we've barely had any of that just smothering, sweltering, miserable, oppressive heat when you walk out the door that just takes your breath away. So, overall, I think we've still been blessed with a pretty good summer. But yeah, it is last few days, man. And like I said, it's going through it. Spent an inordinate amount of time watching a bunch of grown adults run around and try to pretend to be athletic. It's hot. Yeah, I know they're hot out there.
My wife's turned into a bit of an old lady in some ways, in a lot of ways actually. But one of them is she loves like keeping up with the weather, and she, not just the weather on TV is not good enough, not just the Weather Channel app. Glenn Burns specifically, she likes to follow my man Glenn Burns on Facebook and keep up, and she'll send me updates and all that. And Glenn Burns, before the spring started, he was like, "Listen, we're going to have a very mild spring, and it's going to be a very mild summer, comparatively speaking." And I got to say, he's not wrong. Up until the last few weeks, it has not been that devastating heat that is his, which thank goodness I'm glad for. We may have another month or so of somewhat warm temperatures, but Glenn Burns is right that the West, he said the West was going to have a very hot and crazy summer, while we in the Southeast and whatnot are going to have somewhat of a mild summer on the East Coast. And so far, he's been right.
Well, I'm gonna hopefully rescue you a little bit from calling your wife an old lady, and I'm gonna tell
She
you a
don't
story
listen.
because it gives us an opportunity. You talk about her liking to watch the weather and keep up with the weather. It reminds me of a stage in life, and for some of our younger followers, they may not even know what I'm talking about here. There used to be a stage in life where TV had like just channels that just you put it, you watched a channel, and whatever was on that channel is what was on that channel. You weren't streaming, you didn't have all the apps and stuff, and so anyway, for most of us that of a certain generation most of us had kind of what we would have a background channel, like a channel like we we're watching TV, but that would just be the channel we would have it sitting on. And for guys like me and David, obviously it was ESPN. From 8 in the morning till noon, they played the same episode of SportsCenter over and over again, and I never changed the channel once. That was my background was ESPN and SportsCenter in the morning. Ken Miller, who you know very well,
I do.
Ken Miller's background was the freaking Weather Channel. And we had satellites, so we're only getting anything local like every 55 minutes. They're going to do like a 3 minute local segment. My dad, literally, his background to reading the newspaper, reading the book, or whatever, his background was to watch the freaking Weather Channel. And I used to ask, I go, how is this even remotely entertaining? And I don't get it, but some people are just fascinated by it. And that some bitch could tell you what the weather was just about anywhere in the world for 20 years, though.
We are not far from
Shout out,
being that
Dad. I love you.
age. Shout out, Mr. Ken. Great man. Listen, we're not far from that because I find myself not necessarily watching the Weather Channel, but checking and asking Alexa what the weather's going to be more often than I should. Respect for Mr. Ken because I remember he loved his vodka, if I'm not mistaken, correctly. And I want to say he introduced me to somewhat good vodka. I think Stoli, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember you having some Kettle One and some Grey Goose. You had several good ones in the Miller household.
Yes. And my man loved his stuff. He loved his
Back
stuff.
then, you
and
couldn't
I
handle
appreciated
much. You weren't good for about a drink and a half before you were wasted, though.
I'm a little bit better now. Well, not now. I was a brief stint where I was better, but now not so much because I don't have the same way with wine. I can't drink wine because I'm not a sipper. I'm a gulper. I like to get it down in my gullet pretty quickly, and you can't do that with certain drinks. And vodka can be one of those where it sneaks up on you, and wine, that wine headache is different level. And I just gulp it.
I am getting into some weird and possibly dangerous territory now. I'm going on, I think, my 4th month of no drinking at all, not a single sip. And David, you know me well enough to know that's almost something that one would think would not have been on the list of possibilities. And
Impressive.
every now and then, like when I see it on TV, I kind of go, it looks kind of cool. I might want to go sip on a bourbon just because it looks, in that moment, it looks enticing. But I don't know whether I'm just not going to be a drinker anymore or if I might start drinking again. But and even here talking about it, it feels different having that conversation from the side of going, I don't even know if I want to partake in this stuff ever again.
I've slowly gotten to where I don't drink near as much, and it's rare. Thankfully, I'm not a big, addict is a strong word, but I'm not addicted to alcohol. I can have it or not have it. It don't really matter. I find myself when we go in social settings, like went out on the boat this past weekend, I had a beer or two, but I can have a beer or two or three and not be totally cool with it and go another week or so without it, which I'm grateful for. I'm on a bit of a want to get on a little bit of a health journey, so that's got me wanting to eliminate certain things. And speaking of addict and addictions, I was addicted to ZQL, Greg, pretty badly, and my wife still pretty much is. And you think it's not addictive for me, but they lie to you.
I saw your post on Facebook. I can't in any way cast any shadows of aspersion, David. I'm on NyQuil probably 5 or 6 nights a week myself. I've tried the ZQL just as it's supposed to be a little bit better. Look, I'm a snob. Like it can't be the cherry. It's got to be the green NyQuil. It's got to be the liquid. Don't try to give me no gel cap bullshit. That ain't the same. I need the old school NyQuil. But I have found, dude, I've had prescription stuff. I've had Ambien. I've had like legit stuff that's supposed to knock you out. There ain't nothing on the planet better than NyQuil.
Now, NyQuil I try to limit to if I actually am sick. I don't want to take that because that's some strong stuff. It's hard to get over the grogginess. And that was my issue with ZQL. Even though it says wake up non-groggy, I don't get enough sleep to not be groggy in the morning because I have to get up early for work. And it says non-habit forming, but it may be psychological, but I feel like I was addicted to it. And it affected me to the point where felt like I had a brain fog all the time. Hence why I come on here. Now, it may be lack of sleep, but there's a lot of times I'll go back and listen to a podcast or watch a podcast, and I'm just like, I can't catch my words and all that. I can't help but think that it has a little something to do with all the ZQL that I'm taking and lack of sleep. So I've stopped that. I ended up taking a magnesium supplement, which is liposomal, which is where you take the liquid form. It's just a teaspoon. It clearly could be a placebo effect, but it took about 3 days to where I could actually get to sleep. My brain wouldn't shut off. I had a lot of stress going on and all that. So I've been taking that. It took about 3 days to where now I take it in about an hour. I can pretty much get to sleep without the ZQL. Because before, if I ever skipped ZQL a night, I can't do it. I just couldn't sleep.
I could tell you, brother, I can sympathize with that. And I certainly, I don't ask anybody to feel sorry for me for very much. I have been a very blessed individual, far beyond what I deserve. But sleep has been an elusive thing for me for the better part of the last 2 decades. And man, I'll tell you, I will say since I quit drinking, I do just feel better in the mornings, even though I still don't sleep at all. I had thought that getting alcohol out of my system completely might actually help me sleep. Still don't sleep at all, but man, I'm telling you, after about 20 years of it, and I'm still trying to chase that sleep, and still trying to get that good 6 to 8 hours everybody says they like. But I think I'm just come to peace with the fact that I'm just not going to be a sleeper. I'm going to be that guy that goes to bed early, spends 10 hours in bed and hopes to get 2.5, 3 hours of sleep during that 10 hours. I get up in the morning now and I'm just at peace with it. And I think it's just part of old age. But yeah, now 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the mornings, I kind of wake up and go, I don't want to get up right now. I'd rather sleep. But, with no hangover, no alcohol in your system, at least you feel kind of bright eyed and bushy tailed and ready to go.
Well, I do not encourage this by any means, and it is the fact that I don't hardly do it. But if ever I do decide, like, I look over at my bourbon, I have a little bit of a bourbon collection. I look over there, I'm like, you know what? 1 or 2 drinks sounds good tonight, and I'll have a drink or so of that, and then pop a little, before this past week, pop a little ZQL. Boy, do I sleep good. I sleep great. Now, don't encourage that. Don't recommend it. But it did work.
It's funny that you brought that up because that's been the one thought that I've come to as like I said, almost 4 months now of not drinking at all. Is I've kind of gone, I wonder now if maybe just a glass or two of bourbon before bed would actually have that effect and just knock me out, and maybe it would actually help me get a good night's sleep. But I'm scared to death to use that as an excuse to start drinking again because it wouldn't be a far slide for me to be back to drinking 4 or 5 days a week, and I just don't want to get there again.
No, don't blame me. It's a good thing, but I have been taking the magnesium and it has helped. 20 years of being in a job where I work overnights is starting to take its toll on me as far as physically. I'm not in the shape that I once was, and mentally, clearly, I'm not there since I can hardly find my words. And it may just be I'm dumb, but I feel like to think that it's a lack of sleep. So I'm hoping I can change things, maybe drop a few lbs and get back into shape, in my fighting shape, and things will work out a little better. I did set up an annual physical, which I haven't done in years, which I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm scared. But I did set up a physical for that coming up to check my testosterone because I want to get on that T, Greg. I want to get jacked, son. I'm going to be upset if I go and they say, your testosterone's fine. I'm going to be like, shit.
Take this the right way, please. I will be shocked if your testosterone's fine. Now, having said that, look, I've been on supplementation for over a decade. I had low testosterone. I still do, even with it being supplemented. But I was thinking, if you want to, I've got a little bit of background in the health and fitness world, and I have kind of thought about, as someone who's pushing 50, unfortunately, in a couple of years. Once my shoulder heals, you want to come up with some sort of like common sense superheroes personal podcast challenge and see if you and I can start a little, we'll call it a 6-month fitness journey and try to have some measurable or attainable goals and see if we can get some followers interested in something like that.
Possible. It's never a bad thing. Whatever.
A little accountability.
Whatever accountability and whatever influence you can have to get other people. Because I'll be honest, you're hearing a lot of folks that are passing away at early ages and things, and it's kind of scary. And I've neglected. I'm still not big on doctors by no means, but I've neglected my health somewhat as far as getting routine checkups and things like that. And I got to give a shout out to my boy Chris Cavender, who had to take last week to get a colonoscopy. Have you had a colonoscopy, Greg?
I had my first one, I think it was early this year.
Never have had a colonoscopy, and that was one of the things that influenced me. He's fine, thankfully, but he was like, hey, you need to go get it. And I ended up having to take him because his wife had to go out of town, and they upped the date on it. So it was kind of odd taking a friend to go get a colonoscopy, but I was glad I was able to do that for him. He's helped me out a lot of times.
I'll tell you, it's one of those things, and sometimes I feel like you can see God working in some small ways, but if you connect the dots, it's pretty obvious. Like I for whatever reason, and I've been like you, I have always avoided doctors unless I was really, really sick and had been sick for more than 2 or 3 days and just couldn't shake it, or if it was some sort of orthopedic injury that I clearly needed to go get help. I wasn't going to look for somebody to tell me what's wrong with me. I don't need that in my life. But people who have known me for a while know I lost a business partner to cancer, and my slightly older cousin actually had prostate cancer or colon cancer 1 and had to battle it. He's come through. He's completely clear, so all is good. But all within about 3 or 4 months of those things being kind of announced to me and me having to process that, my doctor just randomly asked me when I was in there for something like medical. She goes, "Hey, you're almost 50. That's about the right time. Have you had a colonoscopy before?" And I felt like it was God saying, "Hey, this is your time to go get this checked." in my mind going, I just lost my best friend and business partner, just found out my slightly older cousin has this. I go, if somebody's asking me to get checked for it. So I'm telling you, brother, if next time you go, you said you scheduled an annual physical. I'm not telling you to bring it up, but if they even remotely mention it in passing it, accept that as a sign. Go get yourself checked. It ain't that big a deal. It ain't that bad. And you'd rather know than not know.
It will be brought up, and that's the first step of what I'm going to do, probably get a colonoscopy. And I got to get snipped, too. Brooks keeps getting on me about that, which I definitely need to happen. But, Chris, and I got to appreciate it was a godsend that he actually ended up needing me to take him for a ride. And, listen, did we joke about me taking him up there and saying, like, acting as if we were together and me telling him to make sure it's real clean? Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We had to throw that out there, of course. It was like, hey, make sure you get that real clean for me, thinking we're together. But we did get a few jokes here and there. And on the way home, he did show me the images of his colon. I was like, well, look at there. I didn't ever think I'd want to see that part of you, but spick and span, my man's clean. I'll give him that.
I can tell you, you get to a certain stage in life, and it's amazing what you can be proud of and take a little pride of. But when my doctor used the word pristine referring to mine, I was pretty damn proud.
Yeah, listen, not everybody can say that. Certain communities may not can say that as well, but I was proud of him. I was like, look at that, Chris. So I did encourage me to get my physical, and I'm hoping I've never been on any kind of testosterone, never taken testosterone or any kind of stronger stuff as far as steroids and all that. So I'm excited about the fact that if by chance I do need it, and that maybe it'll work super well because I've never done it before. I'm hoping I can get on it and get jacked, son.
But let me do you a favor as a friend of yours and bring you back down to reality a little bit. If your testosterone is clinically low, the amount that they're going to give you as supplementation is not going to do much but to get you back to barely above the low limits of normal, unless you get a really cool doctor. They're going to, if you're in the 200 or 300s, they're going to bump you up, 100 points, maybe get you to 450, and then they'll kind of cap you off. I still can barely get mine over 350 at the highest. So they're not going to give you enough to where you're going to just be one of those guys that starts sniffing the weight room and getting swole. It ain't going to work like that. But it will give you a little more energy. It'll make you feel better. And I'm quite content in saying it's going to make you chase Brooke around and annoy the crap out of her.
Oh, I already do. That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, I don't have a problem in that issue. Maybe it's because of lack of chances that when it is go time, I'm ready. But I'm afraid, like, man, I hope I don't. That's weird to root for not wanting to have regular testosterone levels, but I want to have low testosterone so I can get on it. But if it does get me back to normal, if it is low, that's a good thing. But it also give me a thing like, okay, well, this does feel good. So maybe I can go to one of these local places like Infinite Athlete or Game Day and just kind of get a little edge more, perhaps. But I want it to be prescribed by a doctor because I don't want to pay a lot. Shit gets expensive.
Mm. Yeah, it's worth it though. I'll tell you, if your numbers are actually low, it's one thing, and I'm grateful now that over the last, it's probably 3 to 5 years, especially, I think some of the stigma has worn off of it. It is a normal thing. Like, it is not something that should be judged. It'd be no different than, taking a vitamin or anything else. If you're deficient in something, you want to get your body back to the levels that it should be at. We have so much, so many chemicals and stuff in our food and water and all this stuff that, our bodies are completely jacked up trying to process the garbage we put into it. Sometimes you may need a little supplementation or synthetic help to get something where it needs to be. And ain't nothing wrong with that at all, my man. Go get it done. And I'm telling you, give it a couple of months and you'll feel like a new man.
I'm hoping I'm not a wuss and I want to continue this because I'm always like scared. You want to know, but you don't want to know. So I'm a little worried. Got high blood pressure, so I'm wondering if I need to get some help with that possibly, but maybe that all come. I'm worried. You always hear about testosterone not necessarily causing high blood pressure, but things like that can exacerbate it. But really, I stopped the ZQL because of my addiction, and the next thing is my coffee intake. Which shout out again to Jake for getting me the Master's Cup, but I gotta lower my coffee intake and my need for energy drinks. Pretty good on energy drinks. I rarely have those now, but my coffee intake has gotten more than it should be, and I would like to be able to lower it.
By the way, and tell Jake I'm still waiting on my lid. I'll rep the pool service hat once I get one.
I know we got to get it. I'm going to tell him about that because I would too.
In
I'm
fact,
always
I might
looking
need you
for
to
what
send me
happened.
Jake's number. I might need to send him some pictures of my pool. Sometimes my wife doesn't trust me to keep up with. I might need to get an expert opinion on things from time to time. See if I can get a podcast insider discount or something.
I'll do that. He knows his stuff. He handles a lot of houses, a lot of pools up here in the North Georgia area. In fact, I think he's pretty tapped out as far as the amount of pools he can do. That's a good thing where you can't take no more work because you've tapped out. So you make too much money, I guess. I don't know. That's a good problem to have. But yeah, so I'm hoping the physical journey as far as the health journey gets a little bit better. Speaking of journeys, well, where do we want to go, Greg? Let's start with this because as we're speaking right now, health journey. One health journey that took a big hit back in the day was in the pandemic days. One Dr. Anthony Fauci is on a Senate hearing right now as we speak, getting questioned by Rand Paul, who, Bulldog, my man is on it, son. He is not letting Anthony Fauci slide with this. He said from the get-go he's going to be on him like I was trying to think of an old saying. I can't think of one, but he's going to be on him, and he is that. And, of course, old Fauci's like, on the advice of my attorney, I plead the fifth. Greg, have you been, you ain't been keeping up with it because it just started not long ago, but I did see his lawyer got thrown out. But this Fauci stuff, is he ever going to be accounted for? Brain fog is happening again.
This is, and I wish I knew how to put on a shocked face to feign the look of shock that Fauci was a liar. Who knew? I will say that for all of the negative thoughts I have had about that man over the last 6+ years, the little bit of the excerpts I was able to read from his diary made me go, holy shit, he was way worse than even I thought. Look, we all knew he was some sort of, egomaniac, megalomaniacal, power hungry. Just like we knew he was enjoying the fame, enjoying the spotlight. But holy cow, that was like a teenage schoolgirl the way he was writing about that in his diary. I mean, that was nuts. And so much of what he was writing in there literally disproves, it goes absolutely against what he was saying to public, what he was saying in those testimonies. I mean, will he ever face any punishment? Man, God only knows. But at some point, I think this is potentially one of those defining moments kind of in the character of a nation because we all know what happened. Even the people on the other side who refuse to admit it still, they know, we all know the truth. And if we can all see the truth with our own two eyes and see this guy completely get away scot free, man, that is a hard system for anybody to have faith in.
I was trying to say held accountable for. Brain fog still hitting me from maybe a lingering effects of sequel. But did you see the footage of Julia Roberts when, I guess it happened back in the day when she was like interviewing Dr. Fauci and he came and sat down and she was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's him. It's him. I'm like, get the F out of here with that fake, pretentious bullshit that you're doing. This is a fake man who faked everything. It's coming to light. You're not excited about Dr. Fauci. We treated him like he was a god. He was anything but. Like I said, back in the 80s when he was all this the AIDS stuff, he ended up killing a lot of people with that. And then you had the COVID stuff. I listened to a thing this morning where they were talking about him coming up, being the Senate hearing taking place. And I think it was ABC. We were watching Good Morning America, perhaps. And I was sitting there with my wife, and the guy was talking. He said, well, there was questions about the fact that, we wasn't sure if it came from a lab or not. They never hid the fact. They thought that was an issue. I was like, that is a damn lie. For the longest time, if you said it came from a lab, you were considered A, racist, or B, you would get silenced on social media. But this guy wanted to come out and say, well, Fauci did later come out and say that was the case. Later as in 5 years later when there was no other option but to say that, when it was proven that was the case. He lied this whole time about it. He knew damn well it didn't come from a lab. He knew 100% that it came from a lab, that it did not come from a wet market. That they actually investigated this stuff and knew that was the case, and yet still went along with the lie.
David, I am the first to call people out when we get caught up being prisoners of the moment or we get overly hyperbolic in situations like this. But look, I don't want to be that guy, but I can't look at this any other way than to think that this is a monumental moment because, again, for the better part of 6 years, half of this country knew the truth and was trying to get everybody else to see the truth. The other half, they see it, they know it, even though they won't admit it now. But if we go through all of that and come out the other end and going, we live in a world where the facts and the truth and reality simply don't seem to matter. I mean, where do we go from there? And I hate to take it, but I mean, I really look at this. This is an iconic and possibly defining moment to figure out how do we move forward as a nation. Of if he gets away with this, then man, it's just that makes the whole system seem upside down.
Anyone with opposing views was silenced. They kept saying, trust the science. Okay, well, let's get all the information so we can trust the science. Just the information that I like. That's bullshit. That's not
the
science.
Opposite of science. Science says process all the information.
1,000%. It is the exact opposite of it. We got to get everything. If you have any kind of side effect, well, hold on now, I had that. No, that's a lie. How are you going to tell somebody that's a lie if they're experiencing it? Hell, Fauci himself even had some side effects that he claimed from that. They didn't let it get out because they were scared. Well, we don't want to scare people. There's a difference in scaring people than actually giving people information, okay? If ivermectin and all these other things actually work, remdesivir or whatever, all the things that worked or didn't work, that science needs to be out there. I'm sorry. If there's a way to get around it without having to take the vaccine, and there's a natural way to get these drugs that, were horse dewormers and all that, but yet we've been giving to people for years and actually won Nobel Peace or whatever prizes with it. The way they treated Joe Rogan ought to tell you all you need to know. They said he was on veterinary medicine when he was getting it prescribed from a doctor.
Well, I'll tell you that, and there comes down to some nuts and bolts types things that I may disagree with Rand Paul on how he goes about the business of being a senator. But I love the guy's principles. I love what he stands for. I believe his ethics and morals and his integrity are all damn in line with where they should be. So I am very thankful and appreciative that dog has got a hold of that bone and will not let it go, because I'm just telling you, I think this has to be one of those things that we can't let this just get swept under the rug. We can't let this go without some sort of resolution, because it was just too big a deal and we all saw it. I mean, there were guys, and look, you and I just started this podcast within the last 12 months, but I've been engaged in this stuff for the last, I know the conversations I was having with people. I know how real all this stuff was. And if you're telling me we went through all of that because of a total lie and nothing ever happened, I'm just telling you, there's a large portion of this nation that's just not going to let that happen. So hopefully this is what we'll bring it out. Hopefully we can get some sort of resolution that can make our side go, okay, we feel like justice has been served. We now have at least a little bit more faith in the system, because otherwise, I'm telling you, this is dangerous.
All the evidence that comes out showing that they tried to silence opposing views, they would call, get in touch with social media and tell them to silence folks, or, whatever you call it, when they darken out what people with different views or different ideas, or if they showed any kind of signs of like, hey, I had this kind of little side effect, I don't know if that's the case. Oh, shut it down. Can't do anything. The hypocrisy is unreal as far as trust the science, but only the science that we agree with. Don't trust the science that actually shows that where you get all the information. I can't make sense of it. It's hard to make sense of nonsense.
While we're at it, and I gave my thanks to Rand Paul for not letting go of this. I think we also need to take a moment, and this is a good chance to say thanks to Elon Musk too, because without him getting Twitter and allowing all of us to have more access to see more of what was really going on, I don't think even with Rand Paul's efforts it would have been out there in this kind of public view and have the notoriety it has. So both of those guys if this becomes a defining moment, like I think it has the potential to be, Rand Paul and Elon Musk both deserve a shout out for helping us get to this point where we can bring the truth to light. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Much respect. And Elon, there's a lot of stuff on X. I'm like, man, this is too much. We don't need to see this. I don't want to see this. But he's transparent in the fact, like, hey, free speech is free speech, whether you like it or not. There's a lot of stuff criticizing Elon on X, which is his own actual site. He could shut that down if he wanted to, but he doesn't. He lets everything go through. So kudos to that. And like you said, without him, we would not know half of this information that's been released and has been pushed upon people to actually be released. And I think there's a lot more to come. The releasing of his diary is just a beginning. I think if push come to shove, he won't speak, which the Fifth Amendment, I agree with, and it's a great thing, but I don't think it's meant for this in a situation to where, buddy, you can't even hardly get charged for anything because you've already been pardoned preemptively by freaking Biden. That tells you all you need to know right there.
Well, and there again, though, that I'm hoping that some of the senators, and again, it may all land in the lap of Senator Paul to be the one to really do it. But I mean, there's an element of I don't know legally if you're entitled to the Fifth Amendment after you have that sort of immunity, because there's nothing you can't indict yourself because there's no indictment to be had. It's not
That's my
possible.
point. The only
So
way you,
if I was that was up in the air, and like you said, I guess you said that you've already seen parts of it from this morning, and that's what he appears to be doing. I mean, that's sad, but at some point, we just got to get the truth out there. And I think hopefully that I was hopeful that some answers would come from this, but you're telling me he's pleading the fifth all the way through
he's
so far?
pleading the fifth all the way through that I've seen up until the time of this podcast. And he actually had about 12 lawyers with him, which Rand Paul pointed out. And one of the lawyers sat beside him, which Rand Paul also pointed out that he shouldn't be doing that the lawyer doesn't need to be sitting beside you, that there's space behind them. And if you are going to come and be there, you need to be silent and only advise your witness what your client rather, of things like that. But the lawyer started talking out and trying to be in the damn show. He wanted to be part of the show. Even when Rand Paul was like, hey, listen, you cannot talk. You can't be here. You can't. I told you you shouldn't even be here, but I'm allowing you to be here. So you need to be quiet while we're talking to Dr. Fauci. He kept on, and he's like, for 5 minutes, he kept threatening, like, hey, if you keep it up, I'm going to get you tossed out of here. And he kept on and kept on until they ended up tossing him out, which I think was 100% done on purpose and was the goal that whole time, because the only thing you're going to hear is they unfairly treated Dr. Fauci's lawyer and they kicked him out, when that was not the case. The lawyer brought it upon himself, and he had a whole 6 or 7 other lawyers right behind him if he needed any more lawyers. So that's going to be the narrative that they probably push, and that's the fireworks that they wanted. But that is 100% a show, and it was a fake situation set up by this fake ass Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, you can hear the cackling hens on the View tomorrow already talking about how unfair, what a clown show it was, and it was just, it was a witch hunt. They were just out to get him, and I'm sure they can cut some clips and make it look like whatever they want to make it look like. But the bigger picture is, and Fauci being called to the fire a little bit. We were talking about just the truth and stuff you can find on Twitter. At least to some degree, for those of us who still want to embrace reality and common sense. But maybe I'm being overly optimistic and a little grandiose in the moment. But it does start to feel like maybe the walls are closing in a little bit on the lunatics.
I hope so.
That you're just starting to feel that squeeze. If they're starting to realize, hey, look, we just can't get away with the BS anymore. We can't get away with the lies because too many people can see the truth with their own 2 eyes. I'm hopeful. I pray for it. I just want to get back to where we can have conversations about what's happening right in front of us and all acknowledge the same reality and then form our opinions from there. And I feel like I said, I feel like maybe this thing with Fauci, maybe some of the Lord, man, we're not going to let go of the LGBTQ stuff either, brother. I'm telling you, like we're going to keep calling them to the carpet. They want dudes playing against girls. They can't get away from it. And I hate to say it, like it should be a trivial issue, but we got to keep holding them to the fire for stuff like that. And I think that's where we are. You're finally starting to see it in some of these Senate committee meetings. Some of these people are finally being forced to answer questions that they cannot answer without just flat out lying. And I think it's nice to see that coming to fruition and people being called to the carpet finally. And man, I'm hopeful something happens to Fauci. We need it as a nation, I believe.
I hope it's going to come out, the fact that he was responsible, not necessarily directly responsible, but knew about this and didn't do anything about it or lied about it to make the situation even worse. And, the whole saying is that, for a while it was like the numbers, they said that anybody that died had COVID. Whether they got in a car accident, they would test them for COVID. Because, that makes it a lot more scary if you die of COVID back in the day. No matter what happened, you could shoot yourself in the head, you died of COVID if you had COVID. And there was too much money being passed out because if somebody did die, hospitals alone, if somebody passed away from COVID in there, you got an extra pay incentive from that. So that's why there was so much testing and all that. But you let it find out, which I think is already the case, that Fauci knew about this, that they studied this, and it got out from a lab leak, that they almost caused all this stuff that happened through COVID. You watch how quickly the narrative will turn is, well, I know we said this many people died from it, but not really. It was not really that many people. It was more comorbidities that ended up dying. The narrative will flip completely if that's the case, because they'll want to not make it look as bad, knowing that he knew about this and knew where it came from and didn't try to hide it, saying it came from a bat.
I'm not going to challenge you and say you're wrong on that theory because we all know how the left is wired, and you're right. That's what they do when they can't win an argument. They're going to flip the argument and change the argument. But that's why I think this is such a crucial moment for us, because I think this is something where we have this dead to rights. There is no way to wiggle out. Like if he not only knew about it, helped create it, helped fund it, and then tried to cover everything up and lied all along the way, there's really nowhere to turn on this that I can say, like, because like you said, they're going to say, okay, well, maybe it wasn't as deadly. Well, they were lying about that because they were trying to convince us it was deadly so they could get the power and scare the hell out of everybody. There is nowhere for this man to run in this. And I think that is, again, I think that's why this is such a defining moment, because this guy does not have a way out. And if he gets away with it, then it is just them telling us, well, hey, some people just don't get in trouble.
They lied about the mask, saying that it would stop this and force that upon people. They made up a complete farce number of 6 feet. They just like, I don't know, 6 feet. They made that up, lied about that situation. They lied about the severity of it in kids. They lied about that, knowing that there was not a huge issue with kids, so they shut down the schools and all that. What else aren't they going to lie about? I don't trust them in any way.
And let me remind you, David, because I travel. I mean, I get out in the world from time to time, and there is still a not insignificant percentage of people that are mentally broken and still wearing masks around every day because of what was done here. And you can't tell me that that's okay. Like those are the long-term effects. Some people were just broken by this thing. There has to be repercussions for that.
I'm going to try we need to, until we get the full, we'll watch the highlights today, and then hopefully we can get another episode in this week and go over more of the Fauci stuff. But the effects from the COVID situation and the way they acted and the way they treated and pushed it upon us is going to be felt for a long time coming. And it already has when it comes to kids and their mental health and all these issues. So I don't want to make a full episode about Fauci, but I hope he gets his upcomings, because he needs to be held accountable.
You've been talking about mental health. You just mentioned that, so now we can talk about LeBron.
LeBron James. They came out a while back in the Miami Heat. I don't know if they were trying to will it to happen, but they faked the press release saying that they released something on YouTube announcing that LeBron is coming to Miami. Well, that's not the case. That is not the case. Of all the places, if you want to really show yourself, LeBron, and be somebody that could, the GOAT, if you were to come to Atlanta and get a championship, I'll call you the GOAT. But you going to chase it in Philadelphia, not going to be the case. LeBron James is with the Philadelphia 76ers. Greg, how do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think LeBron could bring a title to Atlanta unless he was playing on the WNBA team with Miss Bricklayer, Angel Reese. Look, here's the thing. I got to preface this. And anybody who even knows me remotely at all as far as my sports takes and sports opinions knows this about me. I was going to have a negative opinion regardless of where this dude ended up, because I just don't like LeBron James. When he was young, I kind of was into LeBron when he first, it was cool at first, but that dude has just lost me and a lot of other basketball fans along the way. I don't care. I'm ready for the dude to retire. I'm ready for the LeBron James story to just
ton of money,
be done.
But not
Didn't
when
care
it
where
comes
he
to
ended
LeBron
up.
type money or
It wasn't
NBA
going to
type
make
money.
me happy.
So
I
give him
don't
respect
care.
in the fact that he took less
Philadelphia,
money.
it's an interesting destination. I mean, that is. It's hard not to look at that team and go, there's not a whole lot of weaknesses in that starting five.
If you'd have stayed in
But
Cleveland,
I'm telling you
and put
something in my
4 or 5
gut just
championship
says,
runs up,
look, this is only successful if LeBron's holding the trophy at the end of the next
We're not
season.
chasing it, having to find somebody else to ride along with you. And this is the case here.
I don't think the basketball gods will let this happen.
You can't be that big of a body and stay healthy. Jaylen Brown, I think, is there now. So they got a strong team. And look, you talked about not caring for LeBron, and I'm kind of with you. And you also spoke about Angel Reese. Did you see Angel Reese pull a LeBron, and the fact that she was going up for a layup and somebody went to go block the shot, did not even touch her, and she falls on the ground like, oh, my head, a la LeBron. It is not. She's always quick to try to get, like blame somebody for
No,
this or
David,
that. She
I
wants to be
don't
the
watch
star
the
of the show.
WNBA.
Meanwhile, she's like, I got a
Unless
bunch of
it's an Angel
rebounds.
Reese highlight
Yeah,
on
but
X,
that
I
don't.
don't
First
see
off,
it. That's
rebounds
all
don't
I get
excite
from my
nobody, and
WNBA
most of
fix.
them
But
exactly.
despite how
Most of
much
them are
ESPN
offensive
wants to
from your
force
own
the
misses. That
WNBA down
doesn't
my
count.
throat, it
Okay,
ain't happening. I'm not
is she
watching that
somewhat
crap. It's
talented?
just not
I'm
going to
sure she
happen.
is. I mean, but
I'm glad you
you
brought
stop
Angel
comparing
up, man.
yourself to
That
Caitlin
might be the
Clark.
only basketball
Steph
player I
Curry.
dislike more than
I
LeBron.
mean, Dennis Rodman didn't compare
It's
himself to
just
Michael
the
Jordan, and
antics,
he wouldn't
man.
compare
Her
himself
game
to
is
Steph Curry. It's
hideous.
just two different
Just from what I see
spectrums.
on
Just
Twitter,
be
that is not a pretty basketball game.
Well, take looks out of it. Looks is obviously one thing. Looks is one
Most
thing.
of them were her
Clearly, she's
misses.
attractive, yes, but take that out of the fact because first off, stop coming at me like, well, it's just because she's pretty. Yeah, you mean a straight man likes a pretty woman? Oh my God! Alert the news! Alert! Breaking news, everybody! Hot women are hot, and guys.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this particular episode became so chock full of these things, or maybe if it's just where my head is. But the Caitlin Clark phenomenon is another one of those things, and this is coming from somebody who doesn't pay much attention at all to the WNBA. But we're all watching. Like the reality says, she is the star of that league. She is the one that anybody who cares at all wants to watch. And yet you got all these experts trying to downplay it and tell us she's not that special, like she's not the one. Like, and I go, no, we all see this with our own eyes. It again, to be like back in the 80s and 90s, if the NBA had spent 15 years trying to tell us Michael Jordan wasn't that good, he's not that special. He's just another guy. He's just part of a league. He was helped brought up by the guys before him. He's nothing special. We all see it with our own eyes, and the Caitlin Clark thing is no different. Look, man, I'm glad you're helping bring reality to the people, David. You've done a good job this episode teeing things up. it, this can be taken out of context for a lot of reasons, and I'm sure it will be. But and again, that's two very polarizing examples. But I think that microcosm draws it all into a line for where I look. We try to take a common sense approach to the world, David, and I'm telling you, you stick me or you or about 100 normal people in a room, and tell me who's drawn to Megan Rapinoe and who's drawn to Sophie Cunningham. And that's one of those things where some things in life are just that simple. When I'm choosing sides, left, right, Republican, Democrat, and those are some examples. I go, which one of those two people do I feel like I line up with more? And I don't know how. Again, it's got to be in that room of 100 people. It's got to be 80, 85 people that would probably lean towards going, I'm going to hang out with Sophie. She seems more normal, like somebody I'd like to chill with. Yeah, I'm not even talking about the fact that obviously Megan Rapinoe's a troll and Sophie's beautiful. Well, we were trying to give what little bit of attention the W deserved to Caitlin Clark, and she's not pretty, but they didn't want her to have the attention, so we had to find somebody else. That's it, my man. And it's I said I think I have been often accused of being overly optimistic and maybe a little too hopeful at times, but I feel like we're at least in that defining moment of this culture where we have the chance to turn the corner and go in the right direction. I don't know yet whether we'll complete the turn and really go in the right direction, but for a while there, for a few years there, I mean, we were just clearly going in the wrong direction. But I feel like we're at least in the curve now. Now it's defining moment. It's time for guys like you and I got to keep stepping up and doing what little bit we can to get people out there to just acknowledge the truth and reality and to exercise some common sense. And hey, maybe if enough normal people start standing up and say, hey, reality has to matter. Maybe we'll complete that turn and we'll get back on the right track. David, I think, and LeBron's one of those examples, and there's a handful that I would say this. I think that's part of what makes him such a polarizing figure, is because even for somebody like me who does not like LeBron, I can't be any clearer about that. But I look at the guy, and like you said, there's so many aspects of his life that you go, man, I want to respect that. I want to pay tribute to that the way it deserves. It is impressive as hell to just be the kind of athlete he was physically. Look, again, not a fan. That dude is one of the most physically gifted people to ever be held of grace, like on the face of this planet. That dude was blessed physically by the good Lord. The longevity, you mentioned, that is impressive to have played this many seasons at that level, to play the way he does at that speed. I mean, again, there are so many things. Maybe he is really a good guy, a good father, a good husband. You want to love all that stuff, but for whatever reason, maybe it's just me. He's just so damn unlikable. Who doesn't? Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, I will. I don't watch a whole lot of the NBA these days anymore. It's just I'm just not as big a fan of the league as I once was. Now I'll tell you, once it gets down to playoff time, then I believe they start playing real basketball a little bit more at that point. I'll watch the NBA playoffs when it's actually competitive and that intensity is there, game in and game out. But I'm telling you, like it's just a storyline that I'm just not overly interested in, but I something in my gut just tells me that by whatever standard any rational common sense person would call this a success, it will not reach that standard. I mean, look, you ain't gonna get no argument from me there. Well, you said we rambled, and it may be true. Maybe we did ramble a little bit, but I felt like there might be some pearls of wisdom in there somewhere amongst the rambling. So hopefully y'all enjoyed the show. Get on whatever devices and like, subscribe, share this stuff, do all the things. And till the next time, y'all get in your Bible, say your prayers, love each other, and tell the truth. God bless.